Hi, Tommy. How you doing?
I'm hot. It's so hot here. It's like crazy. It's like gone hot again.
We've got Richard joining us from British Columbia in Canada. I wonder how things are going on the West Coast.
I wonder how hot it is there.
Hey guys, it's Richard here. Yeah, it's been pretty hot. It was 36 degrees yesterday. It'll get up to 36 Celsius again today. Pretty hot here in Kelowna.
Nice, mate. Nice.
Yeah, it's
lovely.
Canada's only semi-arid region. It's very dry. A lot of forest fires here, but thankfully none too bad this year.
I was just speaking to a friend of mine who was like saying that she went over to Tenerife like that last week, and then it was hotter in the UK than it was in Tenerife. That's saying something.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the space. We're going to wait for more people to join us, but today we have Richard joining us from Canada. He's usually here with us in London, but Richard's our head of innovation at TokenTraxx, and he'll be doing a deeper dive into the generative aspect of the art and the music that for TraxxStemz. And of course, Graffiti6 will be our debut, our launch using the technology. So we're going to be talking about rarity traits and the art, and that the artwork actually has the rights included. So holders of a G6, a Graffiti6 TraxxStemz, will have rights to use the art. Maybe Tommy can explain that later on in the space. And yeah, a bit more on the process of how the technology was designed, keeping industry standards, music industry standards, to create the music so it still fits what a human producer would put together. Did I explain that well, Tommy D?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, what does a human producer do? You know, it's one of those kind of things where you sort of think, you know, what's the difference between humans and machines and humans? And I think what is beautiful about this space and the technology, you know, blockchain technology and the like, is able to kind of do, you know, incredibly new things with one's creative output that you weren't necessarily able to do before. And I think when technology enables that, it's a very exciting time because people can kind of use their own imaginations to use the technology and abuse it in a different way. Maybe, you know, not necessarily use it in a way that people expected to, but that's what makes human beings human, I feel, is that we have this ability to do things more, I hate to say the creatively, because that's like the wrong word, but I sort of think, you know, I always think, you know, and we can get onto this later about AI and what AI actually brings to the table and what human beings bring to the table. But I got a number of very interesting concepts around this, which I'm really happy to explore and share. Everybody, please can you retweet the room? You know, usual stuff. Let's get some more people in. Richard is, you know, hands down one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my entire life.
That's very kind.
Well, you are, mate. You are. You've got a, you know, as they say on the Hitchhiker's Guide, you've got the brain the size of a planet. And what I love about Richard is, and one of the reasons why I was so happy when we invited him to come and join us here at TokenTraxx is that Richard has an incredibly broad spectrum of knowledge around tech. You know, he's done so many different things, and Rich, maybe, you know, we'll introduce you in a minute and you can tell us a bit of your backstory first before we get into this. But, you know, this was what's so exciting to me, was Richard's broad spectrum of knowledge around tech. Because one of the things that we like to pride ourselves on in TokenTraxx is that we are an innovation company. You know, I call TokenTraxx a music company, first and foremost, a music company that uses Web3 tools to innovate all aspects of music. And by innovate all aspects of music, I mean just, you know, make the situation better, make the system better. Obviously, we've all read, I'm sure, about the complexities and problems around people owning money out of from royalty chains, historic contracts, royalties that take years to come through. You know, the bias towards major labels from DSPs, the low streaming rates, all of these things which all add up to make a music creator's life very, very difficult in 2022. It's an amazing time to find music, amazing time to share music, probably the best ever, but a terrible time to make an actual real living, an actual living wage for music. And that's the reason why I started TokenTraxx, you know, a couple of years ago, was to try and address this using Web3 technology and provide better systems, particularly for independent musicians. And I think, you know, it's very exciting what's happening in this space. It's an incredibly fast changing and fast growing space, but it is the future. I think we can all agree that it is the future. Web3 is the future for the internet and for creativity in general, I think, and among many, many other things. So please, retweet the room and follow everybody up here.
Yeah, Tommy, I think you're spot on there. You know, Web 1.0 and Web 2.0 haven't been very kind to musicians, have they? And Web 3.0 can change that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to throw out a couple of you know, sort of, I would say what I always say is like kind of juicy concepts and stats around all of this. You know, you've got to remember that one of the important things to remember is that sorry, someone just sent me something. Completely lost my train of thought here. What you got to remember is that, you know, the system that is we have at the moment for finding music is fantastic. DSPs dominate music now in a way that, you know, I suppose the internet it offered up so much, and yet we've ended up with a handful of DSPs that control every aspect of what we listen to, and that's sort of counter, I think, really to what the principles of the internet were at the beginning, and that's because Web 2, I think, is that structure. You know, Amazon dominates shopping. You know, eBay dominates the second-hand world, and you know, Twitter dominates social media. Facebook dominates social media. You know, these companies, a lot of the power is held in the hands of the very few, and I think that's a real shame. And I think one of the things that we're seeing with Web3 is the opportunity to spread that out a lot more cottage industries, a lot more people doing it for themselves, a lot more DIY energy out there for people to just, you know, explore and create the exact system that they want to create around what they want and what they do. So yeah, I think we're in a really good place at the moment. I think if you want to, Jess, we can crack on.
Sure thing. I was just pinning something to the space. So for those who want to just press play on that tweet and see some of that's just a sample of the artwork that you could get with these 3,030 generative art and music NFTs. So this is just to give some context for what Richard will be talking about later on. But Rich, could you begin with your background?
Yeah, sure. I'm TokenTraxx's head of innovation. I've been working with Tommy and the team since last year. It's been great so far. Me personally, I'm a technologist of some 25 years. I started building software in the 90s as the classic kind of script kiddie, and then graduated to building desktop apps for Windows and Mac OS, and then also websites, and moved into the mobile space, did a lot of work in the mobile space. More recently, I've been building for the blockchain space. I've been really enamored with what's going on in Web3, the possibilities that blockchain provides, particularly with smart contracts and what you can build on chains like Ethereum. So I got into the crypto space back in 2013. I bought my first round of drinks in a Shoreditch bar in London using Bitcoin in 2014, and I do regret that now because I wish I had that Bitcoin still. I actually then went on to open up that I ran for several years with my brother. We were mining primarily Bitcoin and Ethereum. and also a niche coin, which was our outside bet called Grin. It was a privacy coin. It's since gone nowhere. Yeah, the building for blockchain, my actual experience in kind of writing smart contracts came later. Throughout all that time, I've been coding. It's just something I love to do. I've also got a deep passion for music. It's something I actually studied in university. I studied music tech. I also have been producing music for many years. And Tommy, when he came to me with the proposition for TokenTraxx, I thought, this is it. I finally get to work at that intersection of technology and music, which is something I've always wanted to do. And for most of my career, it's just been about the technology, which is okay, but this is clearly better. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Really happy to be here. Thanks for having me along, guys.
You're more than welcome, mate. And I can only back this up. As I said at the beginning, Richard's sort of spectrum of knowledge around tech is really, really impressive, and really it's important. I think, in much the same way as music, don't sort of just follow one kind of trend of music and make that, use all different types of music to influence what you create musically. People come to me with their demos all the time. In fact, I do a great space called Truth or Fluff, which I do on normally on Wednesdays, sometimes on Tuesdays, but basically it's a chill room. But I give people a lot of, people come up, play their tracks, and I give people some feedback on it. And one of the things I'm always saying to people is, look, they come and play me a track and it sounds a bit like, I don't know, Burna Boy or something like that. And I'm like, look, it's all very well just trying to recreate a Burna Boy track, but think about, if Burna Boy and Mozart and, Led Zeppelin were in the studio, what would it sound like, and then try and work sort of along that agenda. And I think that's always a really good thing of bringing things together. And Richard does this brilliantly. He's got a great understanding of web applications and obviously phone applications, of data, all kinds of stuff. Things that we're very interested in looking at, particularly the data side in TokenTraxx and how we can innovate that from a musical point of view. And I think, that's a really crucial part of one's own development, is bringing in lots of different styles and lots of different experiences together, because everything's going to kind of work together, particularly in this space, because it's so new. And it's so open. There's so much to kind of explore in this space. I think we all are staring. One of the reasons why I put TokenTraxx together, because I just wanted loads of really clever people and loads of experienced people all to be in together in one office. From music world through to the blockchain world, the regulatory world, the licensing world, management world, all in one office together to be talking and discussing on a daily basis how this intersection of music and Web3 works. And I think we're seeing some amazing things in the past year. I mean, really, music NFTs are only a couple of years old, properly, realistically. And I think the difference that we've seen and what people are doing with music NFTs, everything from one-of-ones to editions through to generative projects, and of course, big communities and stems and all kinds of really interesting concepts, really are beginning to sort of separate music out from the art NFT world. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do, from my first Genesis project, I've been banging on about NFTs for 3-4 years, and obviously created an entire company around them, which is, as I said, TokenTraxx. Please go and check out TokenTraxx, as you'll see from the pinned tweet at the top. And what we're doing over there and the projects that we're releasing are really, really interesting. And one of the reasons why I wanted TokenTraxx to be at the forefront of all of this discussion was to come from a music-led place. I've been in the music business for 30-odd years as an artist and a music producer and a songwriter, and worked with incredible artists like Jay-Z and Beyonce and Kylie Minogue and Tom Jones and all these insanely brilliant artists. I'm actually in the studio as we speak with an artist, a UK rap artist called Dave, working with him on some stuff. So, I've been in the music business for a long time, and I really felt that this technology wanted to be artist-led, and that was really, really important. That it was artist-led. Artists had the kind of say in how this technology should work for them, and that's what TokenTraxx is all about. So when I approached my first Genesis project, I wanted to do something a bit special, and this has been 9 months in development, this project. It's taken a long time because we had to do a lot of new technology, new ideas, new things. I wanted to create a concept that celebrated collaboration. And so I created a project back in 2008 with an amazing songwriter, singer-songwriter called Jamie Scott, who's gone on to become an incredibly popular and very, very successful songwriter in his own right, working with like One Direction and Justin Bieber and all kinds of incredible artists. And me and him created a project called Graffiti6, and we also incorporated, it was what we called a collaboration, because I come from very much sort of dance music and kind of hip hop and you know, all kinds of electronic kind of styles, but also very much into soul and folk and everything. Jamie comes from more of like a folk orientated background, a singer songwriter orientated background, but also we both have this mutual love of Marvin Gaye and artists like that, Stevie Wonder and artists like that. So we wanted this to be a collaborative project, and we brought on an amazing graffiti artist. This is back in 2008. We brought on an amazing graffiti artist called Jimmy Crayon. Amazing name, Jimmy Crayon. And we brought him on because we just loved his style. And we were like, why don't you be a part of our collaboration? So Graffiti6 was always a music and art project. It was everything that we did, every piece of music, Jimmy would come up with an art form. And we would sometimes ask him to come up with art forms, and we would then do music around that. So it was a really interesting kind of combination of what art and music can do together. And that was the whole raison d'etre, so to speak, of Graffiti6, was to be about collaboration and all these different styles of music and art coming together. And so when I came up with the concept of wanting to do something really special for TokenTraxx as my Genesis drop on TokenTraxx, I thought, why not better to do it with Graffiti6, which was always a sort of NFT art and music concept anyway, from back in 2008. Ironically, we were kind of ahead of our time, I think, in that respect. And so I got back together with Jimmy and Jamie, and we came up with this song Revolution. I wanted a song that was kind of like an anthem for the Web3 community, which I really do feel that we're in the middle of an amazing revolution at the moment, and the opportunities that this, you know, this technology can bring, and you know, the positivity around that. And Jimmy continued his artwork concept that he'd done for Graffiti6, which have always revolved around a heart. And so we have at the basis of this a track that's created by me and Jamie, and artwork that's created by me and Jimmy. Now, what we then took was, we decided to get this track remixed in a very traditional way. You know, when you're a band or whatever, and maybe you want to get the track remixed for like club or radio or drum and bass style or a hip hop style or whatever. Very traditional to get, you know, DJs to remix tracks. And so we thought, why don't we get the DJs to remix the tracks? We wouldn't tell the DJs who else was remixing, so they didn't know who else was remixing. The DJs would remix the tracks in their specific style, you know? And actually, my only brief to the DJs were, you just do it in your style. Don't change the key, because obviously that's important, because the stems need to fit together ultimately. Don't change the key. And everything needed to be a certain amount of bars length long, and I'll come back to why that needed to be in later on. So the remix then went off. They created their own versions of this original Graffiti6 track, Revolution, and I think I'm going to pass it over to Richard to tell us what happens next, because that's the sort of like crux of the matter. Jess, sorry, you got your hand up, Rich, before you come in. Jess has got a hand up.
I just wanted to say, at the end, we would like some questions and answers at the end, and if anyone has a little mini shill, always welcome at the end of the space. So if anyone requests, hope you don't mind. We'll turn on microphones towards the end of the space. But we do appreciate any questions or any conversation. But just wanted to let all the people know. Yeah, we will open up the space towards the end.
You can also, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see like a little like dialogue box, which is at the moment blacked out with 2 on it. You can leave replies to a tweet there, and they can be questions. So if you've got a question in the middle of it and you want to throw it in, and you just remember, before, and then you just want that, throw that question in. We will take a look at them from time to time so that we can answer those questions for you. Rich, I will pass it over to you to explain the next section of what this is all about.
Yeah. So I was really excited when Tommy came to me with this idea for a project that he had with his band Graffiti6 and this new track Revolution, and it's a concept that he and that we all call TraxxStemz. And the idea is that we have the original song, which is composed of 8 or 9 stems. And if you don't know what a stem is, basically it's just like a layer within a song. So it could be the backing vocal or the lead vocal, or it could be the drums or the bass synthesizer. And typically a track will, a song will have anywhere from, I don't know, 5 or 6 stems, maybe a dozen stems. Could be getting pretty heavy with that many. But as Tommy was saying, we have that original track composed of 8 or 9 stems, and then we had that track remixed by 4 really hot remixers. We've got Odin and Fatso doing a kind of a deeper kind of vibe, and then Calix and TB doing kind of a drum bass vibe. Flux Pavilion did something really anthemic, kind of stadium housey, and then we had a 4th remixer, didn't we, Tommy? Who was the 4th? Paul Woodford, yeah, and he did a pretty amazing mix too. Now, each of those remixes, they have stems. They've got layers within them, of course, as well. They've done some work to the audio, perhaps a new audio vocal, a new backing vocal. They've got a different drum track. And what's great is that with all these different layers, there's the possibility to take them and separate out the elements of one of the remixes or the original, and then recombine those layers, those stems, back together to form entirely new tracks. So when this is Tommy's concept, when he explained what he wanted to do with the stems to me, I thought, oh man, we're gonna have some fun, and we have. So one of the things I've been doing at TokenTraxx, I've had my fingers in a lot of pies at TokenTraxx. There's so much interesting stuff going on, but the primary thing I've been involved in is this TraxxStemz project. We take these layers and we use software to randomize and rebuild songs and do the audio processing to bring them together and do some mastering and end up with 3,030 individual songs that are composed from all these different layers. So you might have the drum stem from, say, Paul Woodford, and then you might get the audio, the lead audio vocal from the Calix and TB remix, and you might get the bass synthesizer from the original. And I got to tell you, they all sound amazing. There's been a fair bit of work to get to the point where they do all sound amazing together. Tommy has done a fair bit of work on that, and I've had to do some work on my end. But what we've got is 3,030 randomly generated tracks that are pretty cool to listen to. I'm a big fan. Hopefully you guys will be too when you hear them. Another thing that we've been working on is doing the same thing with the audio. With the artwork, I should say. And basically, just like a song is composed of all these different layers, all these different stems, the artwork too is composed of layers. And so there's 3 key elements in the artwork. I think you can see it in what Jess posted earlier. But basically, there is a heart, and then there is an accent, which appears on top, and then there's also an accessory, which appears around the heart. And so we've got 50 different variations of each of those things. And then again, using software, we're automating the process of randomizing the selection of each of those elements from a heart, from the accent, and from the accessory, and bringing them back together to create totally unique individual artworks. And none of these artworks or audio tracks are repeated, by the way. They're all entirely unique. And the techniques for doing it are quite a lot of fun to build. I've had so much fun building this. A lot of it is just using scripting languages to randomize composing the elements. And then yes, you use specialized tools in order to bring the artwork together. It would be Photoshop in that case. And then also for bringing the audio together. And we're using a tool called Sox to do that. So hopefully that's all clear. I know it's quite a mouthful. What do you think, Tommy? This is probably the more detailed explanation you've heard.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing for me was trying to work out a lot of generative music that is purely generative music. I don't find quite. There's parts of it that I find really interesting, and parts of it that I find, like from a conceptual point of view, I find it really interesting. But actually, from a straight up musical point of view, it leaves me a little cold, most of it. So I was very eager to make sure that the final products that people were going to be listening to were like really good, like you would want to listen to them, and you'd want to kind of come back. And I think what we've ended up with is exactly that. And the way that I can't go too deeply into this because obviously it's trade secrets, but the way that we did this was by defining those rules. I think at the beginning, in my mind, I was like, right, everything had to be the same key for obvious reasons, but maybe not for obvious reasons. If everything is in the same key, then regardless if you use different chords, you will end up with pieces of music that will mostly fit together. And I say mostly because that's the really interesting thing, is that sometimes things go like right off at a tangent, and you're like, wow, this is really out there, and then suddenly it'll all come back together again. It's a bit like one of those kind of randomizers that sort of, you know, some way gels and then goes out of time or tune or whatever, and then comes back in again. All the stems are timed perfectly, so that the
They are.
stems don't go out of time at all with each other, and that's also what makes them funky. So you get this, you end up with this, for those that understand the term music concrete, you end up with this kind of music concrete concept where things that don't seem like they should go together do go together. And in that respect, sometimes it's really hip hop. You know, there are particularly that old school hip hop where people used to use loops, and they layer loops on top of each other. I'm thinking like Bomb Squad, Public Enemy type style, where they'd layer such loops and samples on top of each other that were completely out of you know, tune or time or whatever, but because they've sort of sat together in a certain way, they really, really worked. And of course, a lot of the mixes are quite repetitive in their nature. They're all dance mixes, so a lot of the repetitiveness becomes quite hypnotic. Even if it isn't quite gelling right, it becomes quite hypnotic. So yeah,
it does. And I would also say what I find so beautiful about what we built here is that things that you wouldn't think sound good together do sound good together. You take that bass line from the drum and bass remix and you put it with the drum track from the original, and it can come together really nicely. And then also when you bring in the vocals and the other things, I've been really shocked to hear all these elements from 4 or 5 very different versions of the same song come together really well when you pull those elements and kind of put them back together. Building the software to do this wouldn't have been possible if Tommy, you hadn't done a bit of processing in advance to get the pitches right and make sure that everything's in the same chord, to make sure the timing is okay. But the final results have been pretty spectacular, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's the point I was making, I suppose, before, was it was really important to me that these things kind of had a human element. And what I loved was the randomization of these stems come together. You're absolutely right, Rich. When you've got like a Calyx and TB drum and bass, you know, at a tempo that was originally, I think, 175 BPM, suddenly being, you know, played at, you know, 140, which is what the original is. You know, it suddenly like goes into a different kind of style, you know, from this kind of tough, like 808 tuned 808 kind of kick drum vibe on the bass, suddenly gets into this kind of slightly more reggae style vibe. And
Tommy, you know what it's like? It's like we're inventing new genres of music. It's like drum and deep house or something, you know? We're having fun.
Deep drum and bass. Yeah,
What are we going to call this new genre?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. We've got loads of possibilities.
I just want to remind everyone to retweet the room again, please, and make sure, you know, get some more people in. Also, as I said before, if you want to ask any questions, you can do so by replying to the tweet at the bottom. The one that's pinned, the little sort of dialogue box at the bottom. If you just click on that, and it'll take you to the original tweet, and you can reply to a question on there. I wanted to come back, Rich. So with the artwork, obviously all the artwork, as Jess quite rightfully, and if you've just joined the room, welcome. We're talking about the Graffiti6 TraxxStemz project that's based around the Track Revolution. Jess mentioned at the beginning, the artwork is particularly interesting because the artwork is, of course, all rights. So when you buy a Graffiti6 Revolution TraxxStemz NFT, you get the rights to use the PFP in whatever way you want. And remember, this is artwork from an extremely well-respected graffiti stroke graphic designer who's been out there, been, you know, done work for like Nike, for Adidas, for American Express. You know, he's a big artist, Jimmy Crayon, and you know, he's now running an amazing creative studio out of LA. And you know, you are able to buy this NFT with his artwork entirely for you to use in whatever way you want. And what's beautiful about the artwork is it's totally unique. Much like the music, the combination of the musical stems, you will never get no two tracks alike. The combination of the artwork traits, you will never get no two traits alike. For those that don't know or haven't seen the artwork, Richard, could you just give an outline as to what kind of traits the hearts have?
Yeah, sure can. So the artwork, it's really beautiful. It's good. It's stunning to behold, in fact. But basically, I just touched on this earlier, but I'll just repeat it. It looks like we've got some new people listening as well. Um, so the artwork is composed of a classic Graffiti6 motif, which is a heart with an accent, things that appear above it, and then an accessory which appears around the heart. So you might get sort of like a plastic green heart with a barbed wire accessory wrapping around it, and then bullets as an accent appearing above it. And the process for creating these was not too difficult. Basically, we have 50 variations of each of those three traits, the heart, the accessory, and the accent. And what I've done is written software that randomizes the selection of one of those elements for each of the three traits based on a bunch of rarities that we specify. So for instance, a green plastic heart is quite common. There's that appears 10% of the time in these visuals that we put together. And then there's more rare elements that appear only 0.1% of the time. And I won't give away exactly what those are because people are going to be hunting for them, I'm sure, when we launch the project. But anyway, it was quite an exciting thing to do, but also quite a classic thing to do. It's something that we've done quite a few times before, and when we're building on-chain generative art projects, PFP projects. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Basically, we've got the three traits, and we put together a spreadsheet that contains all the rarities, and then we write software that ingests all of that, and then composes the artwork out of whatever is selected for each of those three traits.
And the hearts, there's like, maybe you could describe some of the hearts. There's like there's a rock one. There's different types of smooth colors.
Just about to ask. I had a sneak peek at it looks like black lava stone. These ones, are these rare, Richard? Are you allowed to tell us? Because I haven't seen many of the lava stone. It looks really cool.
Yeah, I wonder. This is a question for Tommy. Really, can we discuss the rarities in detail, or?
I think we should, yeah, because I mean, that's what makes it exciting. We went for, well, I'll let you, Richard, explain what our process was for picking the rarity values on this.
Yeah. So let's talk about the rarities then. So the things, if you are a rarity hunter, the things that you're going to be wanting to look for in the artwork side of things, the rarest one is the asteroid rock, and so that'll only appear 0.1% of the time. Any of the plastic hearts, those are the most common, whether it be the red plastic, blue plastic, green plastic. Those each appear 10% of the time. The lava one that you mentioned, Jess, that appears 1% of the time. But yes, as I say, the rock one, that is the most rare at 0.1%. I think, Tommy, that was your selection.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's very interesting because we wanted, in some ways, I wanted the, because, there's going to be so many out there. People are going to obviously, hopefully, use them for their PFPs, which they should do because they're absolutely stunning.
Yeah,
and they look brilliant. They really look brilliant as PFPs. And I mean, who wouldn't want a heart for your PFP? I mean, come on, it's like let's all spread some love here, right? Let's all spread some love.
Can I ask about? There's some they call Jupiter, or like they look like planets. The planet ones, are they like mid-range rarity? I really like those ones as well.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I can tell you, I mean, so we talked about the heart, but the accessory, the thing that appears around the heart, I can tell you that the most rare of those is the laser ring. So that only appears 0.1% of the time.
And that is absolutely stunning, that one. It's
awesome,
really beautiful.
I haven't seen it yet. That's how rare it is. I'm going to have to wait for I'm going to have to wait for the launch because I haven't had a chance yet. So rare.
Now, the accessories, the most common, they're terribly common, these, are the spines. So if you're a rarity hunter and you get a spine, well, I'm sorry you're out of luck. Each of the spines, whether it be the purple spine or the gold spine, or even the laser spine, they appear 7% of the time. That's quite a lot. So,
and the thing is, this all goes to Jimmy's kind of head. I mean, if we're gonna host a space with Jimmy in a week or two's time, and I strongly recommend everyone come and check in on that because Jimmy's a real character, and his artwork, as you often find, your artwork is always your reflection, often of the person that you are, and this is his combination of putting things like spines, and they're not just spines, they're like chrome spines or gold spines, or what I mean, and he's got like barbed wire, and he's got bullets, he's got mushrooms. There's like the tadars are kind of things that go over the top. So they're just really out there combinations of visual that they just look so brilliant together. And I think when you see, particularly when you see them all in a row, like the way we've got them at the top here, the pin tweet at the top here, you know, they really jump out. They're really brilliant pieces of artwork, and definitely, I think, you know, will complement anybody's collection in that respect. And of course, what I love about this is that they go together with the rarities of the music. So you may get a track that you really like, but you might not necessarily like the heart. And so, you know, you'll want to go into the market, and vice versa. Of course, you might get a heart that you really like, but then maybe you don't, you know, maybe you wanted a drum and bass track and you've got like a house track or something. You know, so you're going to go back into the market to look for these different versions to try and get exactly the version of the heart and the traits and exactly the version of the music that you want. So I think there's going to be a very strong secondary market on this one. I think people are going to really do a lot of trading on the secondary, trying to find it. We're also going to do, you know, watch this space, because we're going to announce a roadmap in the next week of things that we're going to do around this and around the community that we're going to build around the TraxxStemz project. But one of the interesting things that we're going to do is we're going to do combinations, because there are for example, five different drum beats that you can get, you know, from the five different versions: the Graffiti6 version, the Calyx and TB drum and bass version, Paul Woolford house version, the Flux Capacitor dubstep version, and the Odin and Fatso kind of funky house beat, and then the Graffiti6 beat, which is kind of like a break beat, like kind of psychedelic northern soul, we always called Graffiti6 concept. And if you collect all five of the beat, for example, that is going to open up a treasure trove of new and exciting utility, all of which will be revealed in the next sort of week to 2 weeks. So keep an eye on the space, keep an eye on the TokenTraxx website. We are doing a pre-mint on this, and I think, Jess, the pre-mint link is that in the top there?
Yes, if there's two tweets up there. So one's a little sneak peek behind the scenes documentary, and the other tweet that you can see just a small sample of the artwork. If you go onto that tweet, there's a link to the pre-mint. So you know, there's a so it just makes the process a whole lot easier for purchasing. And the reason why allow lists like this are great with ETH, can you explain that, the reasoning behind this, Rich?
So one of the things that I love about Web3 is that it's easy to tell who the superfans are. So the kind of thing that Tommy was talking about, if you have every one of the tracks of the five with the original bass line, or the original drum track rather, and then Calyx and TB, Odin and Fatso, and so on. If you have each of the five of those, it's easy to tell that on chain, and then we can airdrop you super fan content, because we know that you're heavily involved with Graffiti6, that you're a big fan. And then there's other possibilities that we can open up. If you want to buy a gig ticket to a future upcoming gig from Graffiti6, well, we can give you a discount because we know that you own one of the NFTs. If you want to buy another NFT in future from Graffiti6, or maybe just TokenTraxx, you know, we can open that up to people as well. So that's quite cool. Now, in terms of pre-mint, what we were just discussing, pre-mint is a tool that we're using to kind of collect people that can go on an allow list to guarantee that you will get one of these Graffiti6 NFTs. So if you do sign up at that link that that Jess has posted, then you'll be guaranteed a Graffiti6 mint on the day that we launch, which is September 7th.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You know, this is the first project that we've done on Ethereum. Is it the first one, or did we do open level on Ethereum? I can't remember. I think we did open level on Ethereum. But yeah, you know, obviously gas is quite cheap at the moment, which is great. So I think it's a really important thing if you're interested in this project, and I think, you know, why wouldn't you? Because it's insanely brilliant. And what I'm really excited about is what we can do with the community around TraxxStemz. I can't give away too much right now. As I said, we will be launching a roadmap for this a bit near the time of the release. But, you know, I am a music producer, I'm a songwriter, I've got 30 years of experience in this space, and I am more than happy and more than prepared to help people with their music, help people with what they, where they are at in their music business journey, their ability to make a living out of music. We all want to help. That's why we're here in Web3. So we're very excited about that. So that is something that I'm eager to incorporate into the roadmap. As I said, we'll be, talking about that in a couple of weeks' time.
So, Tommy, there's one further rarity trait that we haven't discussed, and that is the accent. Should we talk about that?
Ooh, yeah.
So this is the bit that appears over the heart, and that can be bullets, it can be pills, it can be flowers, mushrooms, and so on. So a little bit of alpha for all you listening. The rarest of all of these. Let's just get this up here. The rarest of all of them is the purple gemstone that'll appear above. That only appears 0.1% of the time. So that's pretty rare in TraxxStemz, in the TraxxStemz sphere. Now, the most common is the bone motif, and there's variations of that. There's the chrome bone, there's the gold bone. If you get an NFT with one of those, I'm sorry, but you've got one that's common as muck. Each of those appears 7% of the time. So,
but let's face it, it doesn't. It still looks great.
It still looks great.
One
of
the ways, because what we were very eager to do was some of the more better looking traits, some of the more interesting and vibrant traits that jump out more.
Yeah.
We made those more common because we wanted people to have those. Ultimately, when you buy a piece of artwork, what's the benefit here? Is it the piece of artwork, or is it the is it the rarity value?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about NFTs is they constantly pose that question.
Yeah.
The most rarest PFPs are not always the best looking.
That's
and
very
as I
true.
said before, in this particular case, as I said before, you have the combined concept of the music and the artwork that allows you to sort of experiment with trying to find that ultimate one of the mix that you love with the artwork.
That's true. Now, one thing I think is really cool about this project, TraxxStemz, we've taken 9 months to deliver this for the Graffiti6 Revolution. It's been a lot of fun, and we've kind of refined the process down to a bit of an art now. And this isn't going to be the last of the TraxxStemz projects, is it, Tommy? Hopefully, we're going to be delivering a lot more of these with other music, with other tracks, with other artists. We've got a provable process now. We've got the software down pat. I can't wait to see what we do next. Tommy, can we talk about any of the future projects, or maybe we need to wait on that?
Maybe not the specific names, but we have 4 artists in the pipeline that are eager to do TraxxStemz projects. And actually what we're excited about doing is connecting up these projects. So if you are, this is going to be the Genesis TokenTraxx project. So absolutely, of course, you want to own, of course, because it's the Genesis, you want to own part of that. But the reality is that over time, there will be more and more people doing TraxxStemz projects, and those will all be added into the pot. So there'll be, what we're excited to do is to create this overall community of all the different people that own different TraxxStemz rarities, and look at ways that they can benefit each other, work together, as a community. So if you own X amount of TraxxStemz, you get free TraxxStemz going forward, and all kinds of concepts like that. Because I think, as I said right at the beginning, what I love about this concept of bringing all these different artists together, bringing all these different concepts together, is the collaboration concept. And I think at the heart of Web3 is all about collaboration. It's about building communities that work together to help each other. And although you might be building it around a sort of singular thing, an artist or a piece of artwork or something like that, it's actually the power of the community to take it forward. And based on the principles of the project, at the heart of TraxxStemz, at the heart of Graffiti6 is collaboration, is people coming together.
That's right. And Tommy, collaboration is where we can really get wild with TraxxStemz. So this first kind of delivery of TraxxStemz for Graffiti6 Revolution, we've got the original, we've got the 4 remixes, we've taken all the stems, we've thrown them into our technology, we've created these 3,030 randomized tracks out of them. But when we get to a point where we've got a few different songs from a few different musicians, we've taken all their work and the remixes from those tracks and put them into our technology. I think it'll be really exciting when we combine elements from different tracks together, and we end up with a totally different kind of sound. And of course, we'll have the software, do the beat matching and the pitch shifting in order to get things into a state where song A mixes well with the elements from song B. But being able to kind of collaborate and bring together musicians from perhaps completely different spheres and combine the stems from their different tracks. I mean, that's when we're really going to get pretty exciting stuff going on, aren't we?
Absolutely, and I think this is what this is at the heart of what this is all about. And by getting into and buying up, at least one. If I certainly will be buying up a load of these because I just think they're so cool. They're it'll be great to have It'd be great to have this Genesis one right at the heart, and knowing that you were a collector at the heart of Genesis of the TraxxStemz projects. I think it's going to be a phenomenal thing in years to come. I really hope that I have grand visions for TraxxStemz. I have a real grand vision for this, and obviously it's at the heart of what we're doing over at TokenTraxx. Is this concept of building out Web3 tools for musicians and DIY artists. But I have a big love of this idea of being able to bring different artists together and make it fun, make it exciting, make it a bit different, with the idea of bringing each other's music together in a really new and exciting way. I've always done that. That's what has always been at the heart of my production. I try and mix and match, as I said early on. I try and mix and match stuff that isn't necessarily right. And TraxxStemz is really an extension of that. I call it harmony. I call it harmony through mixology, which is basically the concept of mixing shit that shouldn't be mixed.
I love this. This is why you're the creative tour de force that you are, Tommy. Hey, Jess, I saw you had your hand up a little bit.
Yeah. Because just actually, it flows on well from what Tommy was just saying. There's going to be 3,030 of these. I've only heard a very small sneak peek, and they all sound. It's mind-blowing that this all came from one original song, and they sound so different. And they sound. There's just that underlying oh, I would never have imagined that this one song could sound like this in a remix. So it's really so fascinating. Yeah. So for people on the secondary market, when they go to, you can play it back in OpenSea, all 3,030, you could go through the whole collection and listen to all the one of ones and be like, what one? You could really go hunting. Yeah. If you want to go hunting just to find the one that you love, or go hunting for rarity traits once,
Yeah.
So that it's people could really spend a lot of time going through to see the nuances and see pinpoint these differences. And especially for music makers, they can hear, so here's that really rare synth, or here's this really rare vocal.
Yeah.
And
the great thing is,
go on.
I was just going to say, and the great thing is, Jess, this will be really easy for people to do. They'll be able to drill down into the different traits. We've got it's what's called metadata if you don't work in the industry, but it's data that describes the data. So this is the rarities percentages and that sort of thing. So you'll be able to go to OpenSea and say, I want the drum line from the Graffiti6 original. I want the bass from the Odin and Fatso one. And you'll just select those tick boxes and you'll be able to hear the tracks of the 3030 that have those elements. You'll be able to do the same with the artwork as well. So if you want to go to OpenSea and say, hey, I'm really interested in the purple liquid heart, and I really like the laser lines accent, then you can select those rarities within OpenSea. Eventually, we'll be bringing that feature to the TokenTraxx marketplace as well. That's something that's coming. But yeah, it'll make it really easy for people if they do have a particular thing, a particular trait that they like, whether that be, I don't know, the Paul Woodford bass line or the iridescent crystal accent in the heart. People will be able to select those and find them easily.
Yeah, I think. Obviously, I'm biased. It's a project that's deeply ingrained in me. We've been working on it very, very, very closely for 9 months. And sometimes I think when you want to do something properly, it does take time. And there were a lot of angles that needed to be worked on around this. Most interestingly, the fact that both me and Jay were signed to Sony as writers, so we had to work with Sony. Which I think is another aspect of this, is working with a major label to who were actually very accommodating in the concepts around what we wanted to do with this. And they've also been brilliant in being able to understand that there's a real interest in primary and secondary markets, and that the value of something isn't necessarily in its playability, it's necessarily in its sellability and its tradability. And that's, I think, at the heart of what Web3 is all about, is this concept of being able to trade what your engagement. You know, it's a beautiful thing. So I think, you know, I am very biased, obviously, but I do think this is a very special project. I think there's so many different angles to it, and I'm very, very excited about the community that we're going to be able to build from this. If you really truly believe in music collaboration and you know, supporting artists, supporting communities of music, which is another thing that I'm really excited to do and passionate to do with this community, building this community, then yeah, this is a great project to be involved in. And I'm not going anywhere. As you can see, TokenTraxx is a company that, you know, we have about 30 people involved in us now. We're based out in the UK. We have for those that know the UK, we have an office in Old Street in London. And we've just raised a load of money to make sure that we're okay through this dark time that sadly we're all in. But you know, there will always be, my experience is whenever there's dark times, there's always sun at the end of them, and that's what we all hope. And I think we're very excited about where this intersection of Web3 and music is going to take us. And TokenTraxx is going to be at the front of the queue, leading the conversation, defining what makes what things good, building and innovating with incredible people like Richard as part of our team. And I'm extraordinarily proud and excited of what we have built, not only with TraxxStemz, but also with TokenTraxx itself. And so I think as a company, we are a really, really interesting company. For those, you know, please go and check us out. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the about where you can read about TokenTraxx. We also have our own Trax token, which is going to be at the absolute heart of what we do. It is going to be at the heart of how our whole community is rewarded. We hope that TokenTraxx will become a community-led project eventually, and that there'll be elements of the, you know, we're building at what we believe is the Ethereum for the music business with the Trax token. And so, you know, we're owning the Trax token, which I think you can go and Sendix and Bitmart, I think are the two places at the moment you can go buy the token. At the moment, it's another good long-term investment. But of course, that's no financial advice, of course. Of course, I'm going to say that. But yeah, it's really exciting what we're up to, and I'm super proud of it.
I wonder if we should move on to questions. There's not a whole lot of time left. What do you say, Jess?
Yeah, we'll see if some people who requested earlier, they're not in the room anymore, but we're going to open up the space for any listeners still here. If you have any questions about TraxxStemz, or just about TokenTraxx in general, or you're an artist, AI, generative musician, and you just want to say hi, you're welcome to request, and we can turn on your microphone. So it's always nice to hear the voices of the people in the community.
Big shout out to Wazy, who's down there, good friend of mine. Wazy's a great guy and a real stalwart and a real champion of this space. So big shout out to you, mate. Good to see you here. Thanks for joining us in the room. If you want to come up and ask us anything about this, or as I said, if Jess, you want to, if anybody else wants to come up, then you are all more than welcome. If not, I do have to go back to my session. So if nobody is going to come up, I think we should probably wrap it up. Jess, if you want to maybe mention the Open Lab drop that is also available right now on TokenTraxx and some of the stuff about that. I'm going to have to jump down, I'm afraid now, guys.
Yeah, if you need to jump, Tommy, that's cool. I can stick around and answer any questions. If anyone's got any questions about how we created the generative music or the generative art for TraxxStemz, if you're curious about how to get started with this, if you don't know how to create generative art yourself, if you don't know how to code for blockchain, I'd be happy to give some tips on that. If you got any questions regarding that, feel free to put your hand up.
Brilliant. All right, guys, we'll have a great rest of the space. Take care, and I'll catch up with you soon. Thanks very much, everybody.
Bye, Tommy. Thank you.
See you, Tommy.
So, Rich, maybe we can have another whole session another day, and we'll make that the title, because I'm sure there's many people in the community who would love to know where to start. Where is a good place to start? I guess. Yeah. Solidity.
You know what? I'd be happy to do that. Yeah.
That would be fun. And you know what? For people who don't have, they don't do Python or anything else, and they're their first scripting language is going straight into blockchain, I see this as a really great entry point to Web3. But I'm just going to quickly talk about OpenLab and the Future Pass. This is a membership NFT that we are offering, and it's quite diverse because not only does it have real life benefits, so it will give the holders VIP access to events in London and Ibiza. I mean, who doesn't want that? If you can make it to the event, that up close and personal and VIP experience with musicians that are really, quite amazing. Plus, there's quarterly airdrops of artwork from some of the amazing artists that you'll see on OpenLab Radio on their website, and early access to exclusive 101s before they go live on auction. So it's that early access as well, and other things to be released along the way as well. So that's pinned to the top of TokenTraxx to our Twitter profile if anyone wants to have a dive in and see what sort of artwork. And we're soon to announce more of the artists that will be involved in the future pass. Any last words to our remaining listeners, Rich? Otherwise, we'll wrap up this space and we'll see you all next week.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Yeah, I hope that you've learned a little bit about what TraxxStemz is all about, learned a little bit about Graffiti6, and also how to create generative art projects. And I think, Jess, you're right. If people do have more specific questions, feel free to DM me or TokenTraxx. And then maybe sometime in future we can do another space that dives into the technical details about how you create generative art, how you create generative music, and how you get it onto the blockchain. But yeah, it's been great talking to you all. Thanks for tuning in.
Have a good day, evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us, and see you soon.
All right, cheers. Thanks, Jess. See ya.